everybody, welcome to the channel. We are so excited to bring you another artist interview. We are thrilled to be joined by Lorcana Artist Andrew Trabbold, who created 4 cards for the first chapter, and we hope to see many, many more. It's so nice to meet you, Andrew. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to meet you guys too.
Nice to meet you. Just recently, thousands of people around the world have opened packs of Lorcana cards and experienced your art for the very first time. We would love for you to take an opportunity to introduce yourself to all of your new fans and tell them about yourself.
Hey everyone, my name's Andrew Trabbold. I am an artist and illustrator. I work in video games primarily. I've been doing this for a minute, but I've been illustrating and drawing my whole life. I'm a big comic fan, and I'm probably the world's biggest Mobius fan. And I always get hung up on stuff like this. Talking about myself isn't my strong point, but that's pretty much it. Let's start there. I'm an artist and I love Mobius.
Perfect.
2 bullet points. So, you said you've been, drawing your whole life. You've been a fan of art your whole life and comics. When did you decide that you wanted to make art like your career?
That's actually something that it's something I think people struggle with when they're younger, is that trying to figure out what they want to do. And I did kind of luck out that I never had that problem. I always wanted to be an artist from probably the age of 6. I just didn't. I wanted to do comics, and that I did a little bit of comic work, but it didn't really bring me down that path. But then I just thought, okay, I just want to do art. That's really what I want to do, and so probably from I'd say about 6.
And is there a particular so I'm guessing I already know the answer based on your initial introduction, but
there's others. But
is there like a particular movie or comic or franchise or whatever that you kind of latched onto and that kind of drew you in, or a particular medium?
There's 2 movies I would say that kind of define my taste and what I like. One would be Blade Runner, and the other one would be a movie called Brazil by Terry Gilliam. And if you haven't seen them, I suggest, I highly recommend both of them. Blade Runner, the first one, and the recent one, and Brazil. They just, I don't know, it just has that same sort of irreverent kind of future sci-fi, but kind of comedy, but kind of seriousness that Mobius's artwork did. And they're very translatable. And yeah, I would say those 2 movies.
So you mentioned your love for comics as a kid, and going through, one of the things we love to do when we're getting ready for these interviews is scroll through your Instagram and your ArtStation and really get to know your work. And I noticed that you work on a passion project, possibly called Dame Yaga, which is a comic book series. I'd love to hear kind of, learning about an artist's passion projects. I think just tells so much about what you care about and about your specific style. So can you tell us a little bit about Dame Yaga and how that came to be?
Sure. It's a comic book about a English noblewoman in World War One who fights the witch Baba Yaga, kills her, and gets her powers. And it actually came about in a text conversation with a friend of mine that we were just throwing things back and forth. And I threw the name Dame Yaga, and then that's just one that just stuck, and I just kind of got the wheels turning. And then I brought in a friend of mine who's a writer, and he added a lot to it. And he said, like, well, why don't we put this in World War One? And then there's issues of trying to figure out, like, how would she fit into that landscape as a woman, and how would she? And a lot of it kind of came out very organically after that.
So how long have you been working on that?
I've actually haven't been working. I've taken a break on it lately for personal reasons, but about a year or 2. First issue is kind of her origin story, so it's got a lot of really cool things going on. A lot of very kind of dark and somber things. That's kind of like my jam, and the backdrop really helps because it was. World War One was a time that was obviously a very bleak time, but also it was a time where the old world was kind of meeting the new world, and you saw that in the way they were fighting the war. And that's sort of like a good parallel between like someone, a modern person meeting up with an ancient person and blending together.
That's so neat. And I noticed on your art station, a lot of the art that you do for that piece is all black and white. Is that, if we went and saw the actual comics themselves, is it a completely black and white piece, or do you add color to it once y'all create the actual issues?
I do, well, it's all online, and I do everything in black and white and gray tones just because I
Okay.
felt that it fit the style better.
Yeah, no, it definitely gives you kind of that almost like you're watching an old movie vibe to it. I love the art around that. We'll definitely have to check out that issue.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
thank you
excited.
so much. It's all free. It's all free. Everything's free. It will always be free to read. So no subscriptions, no nothing. And I'm thinking about getting it on a different server, but I'll let you know when that happens.
What drew you to that story? Kind of what made you want to tell that story?
It touches on a lot of things that I like. A lot of things. The character is a very brave character, and I just found her just very interesting and very compelling
Mm-hmm.
because she's a woman in the middle of a war trying to help, just because she is noble, and I find that very compelling and very interesting. That's what just drew me to the character.
That's so cool. So interestingly, talking about things that inspire you, I'm curious. When you introduced yourself, you said one of the things you chose to say that you were the biggest Mobius fan. What is it about Mobius? Why that? I'm interested.
He is right around the age of, I would say, 13 to about 16 or 17 was kind of, I believe, like people's formative years, and that was one of the artists that I didn't have manga or anime when I was growing up, so I had a magazine called Heavy Metal. I don't know if you've I don't know if you've
Yes, I'm familiar. I didn't have it when I was growing up, but I'm familiar with it.
Right. So back then, heavy metal was much more kind of risque, and they had like a lot of European comics in it. Which, I mean, now the European comics you can just buy, but back then you didn't have access to them. But they were all in this magazine, and Mobius was one of them. And it really showed me like, wow, this is what comics can be. Like, this is amazing, and just his art style just grabs me. So actually have a tattoo of his.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On my arm. I won't take my jacket off, but it's right here.
That's awesome. Maybe by the pool in Miami.
Yeah.
So another piece that, while we were looking through your artwork, that really spoke to me, and it's so vibrant and beautiful, is your Medusa piece that you did. Can you tell us about that piece? Like, it's so different from the rest of your work, and so I'd love to know the story behind it and kind of what drew you to create that.
Occasionally, I just like to go color. Not a lot, but I'll do it just because I like to iterate fast. So I'd like to do cell shading and flat colors, but I just felt like painting Medusa. I wanted to give a sense of. Thought it'd be interesting to show Medusa like kind of. It sounds weird, but in her downtime, like the kind of weariness of just always like just kind of not knowing what to do with herself, just sort of laying around, and just what that must be like. Not in a funny way, but just kind of like she's surrounded by death and destruction, and she can't get near anybody. And I just wanted to kind of convey that with the piece.
Yeah, so it's interesting that the Medusa piece. I think it is fascinating because you have this. You used to watch these movies like Jason and the Argonauts, I think, where they go fight Medusa or
Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm
Titans.
a little bit older than you guys, but like I think you might have.
No, I conflate those two sometimes. I can't remember which scenes from which, but Clash of the Titans, where they go fight Medusa, she comes out of her lair, and you do ask yourself, you're like, wow, this is a sentient being.
Right.
What does she do when she's alone and she's not fighting people? Like, there's nothing else there. Is it years before she sees somebody?
Yeah, did she just lay around all day? Like, I mean, like, exactly. Like, what do the gods do when they're not plotting against each other? They're just sitting on their thrones, just like, all right, here I am. Like, what do,
Waiting for the world to happen.
yeah, what are we supposed to do?
Well, and it's kind of reminds me too of like the animated Hobbit. One of my favorite scenes in that whole movie is Gollum before anybody gets there, and you're just staring at him doing his thing for like, you know, I don't know, 3 minutes.
Yeah,
you're like, this is what his life's like alone.
Yeah, he just sits in caves grabbing fish, you know, from the water, you know, trying to dodge spiders, things like that. I think also like the thing that's interesting to me is like when you look at villains and bad guys, thinking about how they got there and listening to their story with a bit of empathy. Again, that happens in Dame Yaga, where the witch Baba Yaga. I'll just say I don't want to spoil it, but I'll just say she wasn't always like that. And you have to think like, you know, what made you like this? Like, why are you like this? And it goes into that. And I think like the Medusa is another character that you can look at like that, just saying like, well, what made you like this? Like, I know that there's a story behind it, but like, you know, like viewing them in kind of like a 3-dimensional sense instead of just like a 2-dimensional bad guy.
Well, and I don't want us to get like too far, you know, into Lorcana. So if you can't talk about it, definitely don't feel like you have to. But so with your interest in villains and all of this, I'm noticing a trend in your Lorcana cards in Chapter 1, which they're pretty much like all villain based. You have Magic Mirror, Taka, and then you have the Poisoned Apple, which is, although not a villain itself, but is emblematic of one of the most famous Disney villains. Did that just happen, or were you like really drawn to those specific pieces? And again, if you're not able to talk about it, don't.
No. It's just reminding me when I was trying to get work in comics, no matter what I drew, everybody would say that it was that dark Vertigo stuff. It just always seemed like I have moody artwork. It's just how I can't help produce it, apparently. And I think maybe they just figured my art style would fit that better. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I've always been kind of like, oh, this is that weird dark stuff. I'm like, you know, and I'll put like a ducky and like a bath, and, you know, and so oh, it's so dark and ominous. And okay, fine.
It's a rubber duck.
Yeah. Fine. I put candy canes in it.
Like looking at it from a different angle. Like
yeah, like I thought I meant. Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. It's moody.
No, it's so great. Your Taka in the first set is just absolutely stunning.
Oh, thank you.
And when you see it in foil too, just like the glow from like her insides and her heart is absolutely beautiful piece. So.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. What's awesome is I haven't seen the foil yet, so.
That's unfortunate. You know, Taka is a legendary too, so it's hard to get.
Oh no.
Yeah, she's very rare.
Yeah, that's awesome. Interesting. So, we've talked a little bit about other franchises that you're a part of. You've now had the chance to work on, you know, Disney characters. If you had a dream franchise or character that you could work on commercially, if somebody called you tomorrow, what would it be?
Oh boy. Well, everyone who knows me is gonna know I'm gonna say Batman. So.
Dark and brooding and ominous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I try to make him happy. I just can't do it. I don't know. You know, it's yeah, I'd say probably Batman. I'm a big DC fan. I know that's not very in vogue nowadays, but anything with the animated DC projects, I think would be something I'd be interested in.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So you heard it here first. When you work on Batman, we're gonna call you back and get that.
I have so many ideas for Batman.
One thing that we like to do with all of the artists is go through a series of questions from a Proust Questionnaire.
Okay.
They're kind of fun, and it's one of those like first thing that comes to mind kind of thing. And with I have to say for anybody watching, like with a lot of the artists, we sent these ahead of time, and we didn't with you, Andrew. So you're getting these.
Oh man, I just want you to know I might panic. Okay, if I panic and the camera goes dead, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna apologize in advance.
I can edit out long silences, so it's totally cool.
And there is no
Long
wrong answer.
panic silences.
That's true.
What kind of test was it again? You said.
It's from a Proust Questionnaire.
What
It's
is
by
that?
a gentleman. It's by a gentleman in France who created this series of, I don't know, there's like 50 some odd questions that are like to get to know you, and we picked 10 that we liked.
All right.
It was fun.
Height, hair color, eye color, that type of thing.
Even better.
Oh no.
Okay, so the first question is,
Yes.
what sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise? Oh, you know the rock falling in the old Pink Panther cartoons?
Mm-hmm.
When it crushes against something, I love that sound.
That's awesome. And that's probably the best answer.
And that was such a fast answer. Look at you, Andrew.
It's-
You didn't give it a minute to think about
Because
that.
I've tried to imitate that sound and I can't, but it's so, it's just so satisfying.
We're gonna find a clip of that and play it.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll have to like drop
The
that
Pink
sound
Panther.
effect into the video.
It's whenever the Pink Panther or someone in that character, like they push a big boulder, which are just replete in that universe, and it lands, the noise it makes when it lands. So.
That's
Okay.
awesome. Okay. What sound or noise do you hate?
The list is so long. I think any repetitive bass noise, like when I'm trying to sleep, like when I have neighbors that play the music too loud, it's not the music, it's the bass. Because the bass, usually what it does is it'll drown out everything except the bass, and so you just hear this rhythmic kind of like endlessly, you know. And a lot of bass lines are very similar. So.
That yeah, that permeates, that penetrates.
Yeah.
I get it.
What is your idea of happiness?
My idea of happiness. Oh, that's a good one.
No
I think-
rubber ducky allowed.
No rubber duckies. Okay, you mean like what? Like what's my ideal life situation, or just being happy in general?
Maybe.
I think, yeah, happiness in general. What
Oh.
does
I
that
would-
look like in your mind?
I think happiness is something that spikes, and people go back to contentment. I think like people who try to live in the spike are setting themselves up for a lot of disappointment. You know, it's one thing to dip down. If you're constantly dipping down, that's a different story. But like with happiness, you spike, you enjoy it, and then you go back to contentment, and you enjoy it. So that to me is like, I don't know if I'm answering your question. But that to me is what happiness, like how to be happy, to accept the fact that it's kind of a mixed bag, and you're not always, accepting the fact you're not always going to be 100% blissfully happy. And why would you want to be honest?
Interesting.
Because that makes it special, not because I'm moody and dark.
No, that's true. Like, because light. Light is light because there's shadow. Shadows are there because I don't know. There's something really esoteric here that I.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
Oh, it's
I
me
asked
turn
that
now.
one,
No, sorry. I might know the answer to this one. Who is your favorite hero in fiction?
But I'll just go with Batman.
Okay.
Interesting.
Who is your favorite heroine in fiction?
My favorite heroine in fiction. That's a good one. I should have an answer for this. I think Ripley from Aliens. And actually Furiosa too.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an awesome movie. Such a great movie. And such a great character too. And in I think 79 was Alien. But the thing is,
So,
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
first one. Yeah, late 70s, early 80s. Yeah.
yeah, and it was an interesting time because like when I saw that as a kid, no one I knew brought up the fact that it was a woman.
Mhm.
It wasn't. It was just like we didn't think to ask. It was just like the movie, So
yeah.
That's so cool.
That's actually that is interesting because now that and I wonder if it's like that she wasn't billed as a lead, like it was Alien instead of like her on the cover or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting that never was a
No
me too,
one
like,
that I
that's
ever.
the way it is.
Yeah, no one ever, because it was just, it made sense. In Aliens, she was on the cover too, but no one cared. I know there was a big hubbub about Furiosa being about Furiosa, but it just didn't dawn on me to think about it. I don't know. I thought her arm was cool, a mechanical arm she had.
That's cool. What talent would you most like to have?
Singing.
Huh.
I'd love to be able to sing. I assume you mean like beyond drawing or anything like
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. Singing. I would like to be able to sing. I've had maybe a few like daydreams about making it big on American Idol. I won't lie. Really impressing the judges.
Of course.
But yeah, just belt out a tune. Yeah, I actually took a singing lesson once. So.
I took a violin lesson once, so
Oh, okay. I used to play violin.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted check this out. I wanted to play sax, but they said you're too young because it was in fourth grade. Only the fifth graders to play sax. So they said take violin instead, and that's a good preparer for sax. And
for the saxophone?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Okay.
And I'm just like it took me probably 20 years, and I'm just like, wait a minute, that didn't make any sense. Why would that? And they were doing it to just shut me up. So
yeah, they're like, just take this
Well,
instrument.
they had no saxophones left to rent, and they had a violin back there that nobody wanted, and so they were like, you know what?
That's exactly it.
This violin.
Yeah, a violin. It's practically the same instrument. I mean, look.
Basically the same thing.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I played the sax in middle school. Look, it's the whole
Always
circle.
Oh, there you go. Are you both musicians, or do you both play? Or?
Oh, no.
I played the clarinet.
Yeah,
Oh,
he still
that?
plays
Okay.
clarinet.
Yeah, I played it when I was a kid, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to say I used to play the clarinet, so I still have one, and occasionally.
Oh,
play
okay, that's
terribly,
cool.
But, yeah, it's fun.
Music is something that I find as a hobby. I'll occasionally mess around in like electronic music. Nothing major or even finished, but just it's fun.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, and as an artist, I mean, it's just creating anything. It's great.
You'll find that a lot of artists, when they want to stretch their wings, will either go into writing or music, like almost exclusively.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to work that into our interview questions.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
What is your most treasured possession?
My most treasured possession. Oh, I have it here. If you want me to, can I get it?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Show and tell. Absolutely.
All right. So there are a series of books by a man named Robert Clark. Anyway, Richard Stark, and they were adapted by Darwin Cook. And this is the outfit. And I got Darwin Cook to draw a little something on the inside of it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Well, he just put in the yellow tones. It was already printed, but he signed it, and and he also did. Is it in here? No, it's in the other one. But he did a little profile of the main character in one of these, and it's. I thought I had lost it, and I found both of them. So it's maybe not my most prized possession, but it's up there. It's just he since passed away, and I was able to talk to him and get his feedback, his opinion on the character and things like that. So
I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's so unique and telling of who you are and things that you value. So
yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Well, thank you.
What are your favorite names?
My favorite names. There's a last name called Bartolome that I really like. It's a Filipino name, but I just love the way it sounds. What else? I think Bartolome would probably be my favorite name that I've ever heard. Yeah.
Do you remember where you heard it for the first time, or?
My college roommate, he's part Filipino, and he had a relative who that was her last name. So
Okay.
yeah. So they just have really cool names.
What's funny, what is your favorite names is like this really weird question. Like when we first started asking it, we're like, nobody's gonna have an answer right. Everybody has an answer right away. Like it's so funny.
I think it's because we talked to so many character designers.
That's probably
Yeah.
We all actually think about that sort of thing. It's like, what am I gonna name this character? I'm just
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I honestly think one of the selling points of Star Wars is that George Lucas has a knack for coming up with really catchy sounding names. You know,
That is
like,
very true.
you know, when you look at like, I mean, the designs are amazing, all that, everything else, but the names really, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, it just sounds just round and like crunchy and really cool. So, and everything
Yeah,
else, like,
if you think about like the main characters in that movie, like even like Luke, Leia, and Han, like that's outside of Luke, none of those names in the 70s were like Brittany or something.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're all unique and created.
yeah, like
Um,
Leia Organa and like, you
yeah.
know, yeah. I think honestly, it's a really good selling point. Yeah, and he's really good at it.
Okay, what is your motto?
Oh, I don't have a motto. What's my motto? I don't really have one. A friend of mine once, I have a running joke with a friend of mine. We were, when we were 13, we were at the mall and he was putting pepper on everything. And he said, "That's my motto, pepper on everything." And it was a joke. But I keep bringing it up with him and said, "Hey, what's your motto?" And he says, "Pepper on everything." He never forgot. So I'm going to say pepper on everything. That's my motto.
Okay.
That's so funny. It is funny how like these little innocuous moments in life that like, you know, you move through years of your life and you don't remember anything, and there's weird random snippets that for some reason like become your core memories and resonate. You know, what is one question we didn't ask you that you wish we would have?
I don't really have an answer to that. What's my favorite artist? Can I talk about Mobius again?
Yes, please.
Please do.
Mobius. Yeah, he's my art hero. Uh, yeah, like I said, when I got the tattoo, I'm just like, all right, that settles it. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. But anyway, Andrew, it was so wonderful to meet you. Thank you
Great
so
to
much
meet you
for
guys
joining
too.
us. We
All
appreciate
right.
it.
All right, take care.